Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our Tuesday weather update for December the 13th. And we're tracking two main lows and two main highs. We've also got your first Christmas Day forecast for this year. We're going to provide you with an update each day this week and next week as we get closer to the big day. So let's have a look and see what is going on to the build up to Christmas. Two main lows, one to the north, the other one here to the south of New Zealand and out towards Tasmania. There is low pressure also around northern Australia and out to the west, and also some further low pressure around the tropics. But the two main areas of low pressure to keep an eye on are around the New Zealand area. Now there are also two highs. One east of New Zealand, in fact it's east of the Chathams, south of the Cooks. That's moving away and encouraging that nor'easter and the cloudy weather that you're getting. Over here, the other high, south of Australia, is heading towards New Zealand. Now, it should arrive next week in the build up to Christmas and start to leave around about Christmas Day, Boxing Day. Now, when a high leaves, they can be quite warm, northerly winds. So we'll explain that for you very shortly, but let's get into the immediate forecast first of all. And Wednesday's an interesting day because from one side of the Tasman Sea to the other, there are two very different airflows. On the New Zealand side, low pressure to the north, humid airflow coming out of the tropics, and so therefore a fairly mild day. And inland areas getting quite hot. In the South Island, also fairly mild as well for you. But on the other side of the Tasman, between that low and the incoming high, there's a cold southerly blasting right through Tasmania, Victoria, into ACT, and some parts of New South Wales. And your temperatures certainly are down. And this setup is going to linger for a little while. So as we move through the week, as we get into Thursday, that low gets deeper in the Tasman Sea. So that really encourages a squash zone of windy southeast winds between low pressure and high pressure. But on the New Zealand side, we don't really have that squash zone at play. We've still got somewhat of a squash zone. There is still low pressure up here to the north, but as you can see, it's not exactly stormy looking. So the nor'east winds carry on, or northerlies, depending on where you are, and a few showers, patchy rain. This sort of setup, it drives in drizzle patches and sort of light showers, but then also in the mix, you can have some really heavy downpours with isolated thunderstorms. So it can be quite a varied forecast with this sort of instability, especially at this time of the year with the extra warmth that we've got. Now by Friday, not a great deal of change. Still windy and cool in parts of Tasmania and Victoria. And on the New Zealand side, still mild and humid in some areas with afternoon downpours and morning drizzle patches around the country. A bit of patchy rain in there as well. So it's a bit of a messy forecast, but not stormy, and eastern areas are still mostly dry. Let's go into the weekend. So again, no real huge areas of change. The high south of Australia slowly trying to move into Tasmania, and the airflow in Victoria swinging more from being a southerly to an easterly. But over in New Zealand, we've still got nor'west winds, or winds coming out of the northerly quarter, which means it's still pretty mild, but there could be some heavy rain around the Nelson Ranges, parts of the west coast, and spreading over towards the border of sort of Nelson and Marlborough as we go through the day. Now, as we get into Sunday, that low still in the Tasman, but it is moving away from Australia because it's being bulldozed away by that high. So the high is pushing it towards New Zealand, and we get sort of the leftovers of it because it's not exactly the same low. It's starting to change shape and fall apart, and the other low to the north is kind of gone. So it just ends up being this large area of instability. So again, you could be seeing a mixture of drizzle patches and patchy kind of rain, and then into the afternoons, heavy downpours, maybe a thunderstorm as well as that all moves through. So unsettled still, but I got to say, a large portion of Australia and many eastern parts of New Zealand are leaning drier than average. The North Island's probably about normal, if not wetter than normal, for the next 7 days ahead. Now, our final map is for Christmas Day. So this is for December 25th, lunchtime in New Zealand, 10 o'clock in the morning in Sydney. Now, what this shows you, and this is based on the GFS model out of America, shows that high that's currently south of Australia moving out to the east, so parked over the Chatham Islands, the place to be. At this stage anyway, this could still change, although for the past 3 or 4 days, this map has not changed very much. So that gives us more confidence as forecasters about doing an extra long range outlook. But you can see here with this humid airflow Afternoon downpours, thunderstorms near the hills and ranges, maybe a couple of downpours on the west coast, warm for New Zealand. Now on the Australian side, windy, spring-like, with gale force westerly winds and cold fronts. One there, another cold front coming in behind it. So more unsettled by the looks of it for the southeastern corner of Australia. But at this stage, outside of sort of Hobart and Melbourne, and maybe Adelaide, most of the other main centres don't look too bad, like Brisbane, Perth, and of course Sydney. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. Yes, there's also a low up here near New Caledonia, worth keeping an eye on. We are in that cyclone season. That is not a cyclone yet, but it is a low pressure zone worth keeping an eye on. And based on this model, Fiji looks pretty good as well for Christmas Day. But I mean, there's still a long way to go. And the weather pattern is so unsettled at the moment. This is just a good guide and maybe a silver lining for some of you, and for others maybe don't want to hear this again. But we'll keep you up to date each day in our videos right through till the end of next week. That's all from me for today. Good to be back. We'll see you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update.